Life was great, but I very much so resisted being on the farm. We had one TV with like bunny ears on it, 4 channels. And I longed for a life where I could be in the big city. Like I was like, I want to move to New York. I want to be famous. I want to be an actress. And, you know, did all the things, but like it was just so different in terms of opportunities and what the everyday looked like. We ended up going to high school in the city just because like the country education was pretty behind the times. It felt like, and my parents really valued education and giving us, you know, every opportunity to succeed. So, I mean, growing up, we're all in it. And I really resented growing up because we could never shut off the business and like our home life because our house was on the farmyard. It's not like you drove to work. Like my dad wasn't a lawyer and like shut the laptop or turn off the computer. And so we were always in it. And now looking back with the lens that I have as a 39-year-old, I take my kids back every year for harvest. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really had such a blessing in seeing what it's like to integrate work and family. And then just to see how you can bring them alongside of it. Like I got to be a part of that. I saw my dad and my mom build these relationships, the loyalty, the work ethic. So I hated it growing up, but being in the position that am in now, it was like, this was such a blessing. And I really, truly believe it gave me the chutzpah. Like that's what we say. It's a Mennonite term, but like to keep going.
Wait, does that mean like, just like the courage?
Yeah.
We say chutzpah in like Yiddish.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. Yeah. I love that.
But it was so important for me to understand work ethic and drive, but it also caused a resentment where I think I have a chip on my shoulder working through it with my therapist right now about like proving people that I could do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So it's like this tug and pull. And I have these amazing brothers. My brother's a professor in Illinois. He's super brilliant. My other brother's on the farm. And we have a really great connection as everybody. And we've all gone off into the directions that we were meant to go in, which is really cool.
So I love that. And are there any other stories from the farm? Because I'd love to this feels like such a natural open for you, like some great story from the farm. I can't really, so it's funny. On one hand, I grew up on farms too. I'm a horse girl. I grew up doing horsey summer camp. So like my mom would take me off of the competitive equestrian circuit and send me to summer camp where I was going to like shovel shit and fix fences.
Like do the actual stuff.
Yeah, like
the actual work.
How horses should be. Yeah. Valued and loved, right? Like the real stuff that matters, not the blue ribbon.
Yeah.
And that's how my mom really made sure that I was balanced with it. In my opinion, there's nothing better in the world than working on a farm for building character.
I honestly told my parents they should open up a summer camp. Yeah. My parents' farm is right on a major highway. So anyone driving by that kind of knows them would pop in like, oh, we're just driving by. We call it the pop by. So we're just going to pop by. My mom always had room for one more at the table. And that life lesson of like, of course we'll make room. Like even if there isn't room, we'll find a way to make a seat for you at the table to like extend the dinner. And for me, I think the challenge I'm the only daughter. I felt like I didn't have a spot necessarily because my grandfather was very like, the men do the work, the women in the kitchen. And so when I did work, I felt like I really wanted to prove them, like I can drive a tractor, I can drive a semi, I can do these things. There was this drive of like trying to find my spot and my way, which seemed to be the challenge. And I think it's led me to where I'm at today about like not trying to be in anybody else's lane, but like, this is my lane. This is my journey. I'm going to do it in my time. I don't need the approval of other people. And it doesn't need to make sense. We can talk about that. But for me, it was trying to find my way and doing it on my own terms because I was often pushed into the kitchen with my mom, which made sense, you know, to my dad and my grandfather. That's how it's always been done. But like we brought the joy, I really believe. My mom and I would have kitchen dance parties and we'd be cleaning up the kitchen like, hey, we need everyone on the field. We're switching fields. We need to move trucks and get guys from here to there. So just about that community and that impact, it was really special growing up, but it was very challenging for me when I was longing for something else that I didn't have. And I was always looking on somebody else's page.
So at what point did it go from being a little bit stuck on the farm to moving your way into fitness?
So I graduated high school. I did a 2-year like college diploma, business administration, got hired right away, was with a company. And I was dating like our next door neighbor who was about 1.5 miles down the road from us. And we had been on again, off again. And I like the community I grew up in, it was like, you marry that person, you get married at 20, 21, then you have kids, you live in the same zip code as your family. And we had broken up up. And I remember the last time we broke up, I was like, we can't do this anymore. Like either you're in or you're out. And he was like, I'm out. And so 6 months later, my girlfriend was moving to Calgary. It's about a 13-hour drive from my parents' farm. And I just remember being like, this is it. I had $300 in my bank account. I had no plan, like the company I was with was even willing to give me a job. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this all on my own. Like so stupid. I sat down on our front porch of this house that we were renting. And I'm like, this is it. I get to write my next chapter. No one has preconceived notions of who I am. I'm not boxed in. Like go write an amazing chapter. And it wasn't like it was all smooth. I felt this calling to like inspire people and lift them up. I've always loved the stage and speaking. And that was like really the very first spot where I got to be around people and help elevate them and bring out the best in them. I started teaching fitness and really got connected into this wellness community. And it was an incredible journey. And I would say if you're ever lonely in community, the biggest lesson I learned from that is the best people are the people who work out because they value health and wellness and they value that connection. So get involved in that. And that's truly what like skyrocketed, I think, my confidence, my mindset, and how I showed up.
I love that. I never had female friends before fitness.
Isn't it crazy?
All my friends are gay guys, which is nothing wrong with that. I just like to party with my gay boys. And that was just what I did. I didn't realize that I was doing that because I was actually scared of women. And then when I got fit and I found that community, I was like, oh my God, here's my tribe. And I loved it so much.
I said that when we were finished working out, I was like, women who like want to see other women succeed, like you're fist bumping. You're like, you got this girl. You're pushing someone to be better. Like that's where incredible women lie, is in a fitness room, in a class, wanting to take care of themselves, prioritizing themselves so they can serve and be amazing at what they're called to do.
So I had read that you had started kind of working, I think you managed a fitness club.
Yeah. How did you get all this?
Oh, I do my research, girl.
Shit, girl.
You had said that you were working long hours and that caused you to gain weight. And then in being honest about that on social media, about that journey of the up down, is where you built your community online. Is that
totally
track?
Yeah. And I would say I really didn't step into social media until I was broken up with he's now husband, but I broken up with my husband, but I started using that. I'm really good at problem solving. So people come to me to be like, can you solve this problem? Can you fix this? Like I can turn it around. So they were about to shut down this fitness club. They couldn't keep staff. They didn't have like a great culture. And so I turned it around. But like you, it's like, it's never done. It's never enough. So I would be there till 11, midnight. My mom would be like, I lived on the farm still with my parents. I was young. I was like 19, 20. Mom, I'm still here. And she's like, you need to come home. It's not safe being in that area of town. Like, but I would nap in the tanning bed.
Stop it.
So I would tan for like the 15 minutes, set the timer, and then I'd be so exhausted. I would sleep for another hour, get up, do another 2-3 hours of work because I was so committed to the solution. But in that, my personal health really started to decline. And I have been a yo-yo up and down. I mean, I'll show you a picture after this. I was puffy. When I was in Calgary at one point, like I looked like somebody had taken like a Michelin man, like someone had taken a pump to me, and I gained a bunch of weight. And I've always been healthy, but I don't think I've had a great relationship with food. And then I think in those valleys, not taking care and prioritizing and understanding like what you put in is truly the fuel. So I've yo-yoed, and that fitness community, then I had to step out of it. I chose not to work at a club because too, you'd go and work out and then you're on the treadmill trying to do your thing. And someone's like, excuse me, you're out of soap and you're like, I'm trying to just do my cardio, but I cared. So I jump off and you go fill up the soap machine and check all the toilet papers. And so it was a pause in that, and then now resetting. And as a fitness instructor, it's like, just because you teach fitness, that doesn't equate to your actual workout. So I have this pull to want to go back and teach, but I'm also so grateful that I can come in and just attend a class and do that for myself.
So being a spin instructor, as somebody who is a spin devotee, my spin instructors are like gods to me. The reason is because they hold that space. And it is so powerful. I've rarely left a SoulCycle class without being in tears. It's the endorphins, it's the music, it's the vibe, it's all of it.
Like the somatic healing that happens.
Somatic healing. Tell me a little bit about that as part of your healing, your evolution, and your journey.
I loved my favorite part. I taught spin for a number of years, was being able to get off the bike, look at somebody in the eyes. And this is, I coach women now, but this is my favorite thing to do, is like, you have more in you. And when an instructor connects with you and says, I believe in you, you can give me more, because anytime I'm working out, I'm fighting. I want to quit. This is too hard. This is too heavy. I don't want to be here. I have all this stuff to do. So even just getting there, but now once you're in the room, sometimes like, oh, I'm going to hold back. Oh, I'm exhausted. Oh, I can't, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. But if someone comes to you and says, you have more in you, give me more. Like, it's like someone just stares directly into your soul and is like, I got you. And it's like when people have belief in us, that was my favorite part. It's like, I have belief that you're going to bring your best and you can pinpoint that. Pulling that out of people moved me to become better. And it made me want to bring my best every time I was in the classroom. And that's something I think that's life-changing because you don't get that 50 minutes with everybody all the time. So time is our most precious commodity. So how do you bring out the best in those 50 minutes?
I love it. So now you're on your health journey. You finally get married to
Hot Ronnie.
To Hot Ronnie. Love that. So the early days with the Hot Ronnie, you had started a charity for some kids you had been a caretaker for.
It wasn't a charity. I just started feeling the needs. Like we just started raising funds. Ronnie and I, my husband and I both worked at a smoothie company. It's similar to like a Jamba Juice here, Jugo Juice in Canada. I was doing the training and development with all of our franchise partners. And there was a part of the training where I wanted to incorporate community and giving back. How can you use your business for good? Like, hey, can you give $1 of every smoothie? And so in the last day of training, we started hosting these smoothie days. We'd canvass the businesses around, say, come for a smoothie by donation. I had to train them anyways. We're using the product. Don't make it go to waste. And we would have lineups out the head office door and people were donating. Sometimes people would bring checks for $100. So the very first need, I met these two kids. I was teaching Sunday school at church and I met these two kids, felt this nudge, and I saw all these gaps in their life. I was like, oh, they need bikes. So
tell us about the kids.
Yeah. So they have spinal muscular atrophy. They were able to walk a little bit when I first met them, but they've declined. So it's a rare genetic disease. It robs the body of movement. The nerves die off. Your body doesn't have the gene to reproduce the nerves. So your nerves are what talk to your muscles. And so they were slowly losing their ability to move, and being able to have the equipment that makes it accessible and easy for them to move. They couldn't use a standard bike. They needed a bike with 4 wheels on it and, extra handlebars and extra support on the seat.
What are their names?
Sean and Shania. And I still keep in touch with them today. They weren't supposed to live past high school and they're both in college. They are incredible, like the most amazing humans. But I saw a gap in their life and I was like, oh, we can just fill this. And so then it was like, oh, their parents are exhausted. So I took them to Winnipeg to my parents' farm for like a 3-day trip and a break. The most recent fundraiser that we did before we started charity of our own was raising money for a wheelchair accessible van for their family. Calgary's cold. It has lots of hills. Their van could barely get up like some of the steep hills. And then the ramp would break in like -40. And yes, I'm saying -40 degrees Celsius.
Sure.
For us Canadians. And then the van would freeze. And so these kids would either be stuck outside or inside the van. So I saw a need and just decided, hey, there's something that we can do about it. And that was the very first big fundraiser that we did. We raised over $44,000, got some grants, and were able to get them an accessible vehicle that they still use to this day.